Thank you for all those that have stayed till now, till this late hour. It's been a fabulous event, and all the people involved, all the speakers, thank you very much, and the volunteers, and Jackie for allowing us to use a wonderful retreat space.
And Josh, that made this all happen.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. So we have questions and answers now. I'd like to begin the Q&A with a question to Octavio. Now, you seem to be quite a controversial figure in the psychedelic community because you are thought to use some unorthodox methods sometimes. Now, I did an ayahuasca ceremony a few weeks back where I felt like my stomach was going to explode. I thought I had appendicitis and I couldn't purge that way or that way, and I really thought I was going to die. The shaman ran over to me, grabbed me by the rib cage, shook me around, and then he got a stick and he jabbed me here and here. Then he hit my kidney, and it was like being hit with a lightning rod. And I purged, and it was like Godzilla when he splurges out lightning breath. And perhaps your methods are in line with that, to release the inner, whatever it is within us that's making us sick. Would you like to comment?
Yeah, well, as you said, I am actually a really controversial figure because the way that I work with the medicine, but also because there is no way, right or wrong way, to work with this medicine, because there is no tradition. So right now we are in some kind of the wild west. Anyone is doing whatever they want with this or any other medicines, and I do believe that it's necessary to have a ritualistic ceremonial approach to the medicines. And in my case, my ceremony is really simple. I just ask to the person to stand in front of the sun, take the medicine, and try to stay standing. Because if they do, just like some of the people who did that today, the energy starts to flow really easy and people can purge. People in the past didn't know that even the toad can make you really cleanse. And it's because of the technique that I use that was shown to me by the medicine through the experience working with the medicine. Sometimes when people take the medicine, they go and start rolling over the floor, but some people adopt this kind of really strange, weird position that they are blocking not only the flux of energy, but also the circulation and the breath. So then I need to use some kind of techniques to help people to relax and to breathe. And so far, I haven't seen or found anything so effective as the water, because we had these primal reflexes before we were born. We live in a liquid environment. So the breath is the first and the last movement that we are gonna do in this life. But it's normal that when people get stuck in the mind, what's happening to me, what's going on, they stop breathing. Not because there is some kind of inhibition of any kind of respiratory region in the body. I haven't seen anyone stop breathing because of the toad medicine, but I've seen people stop breathing because of their own control of the mind. So then I need to do something. So when I put the water and people breathe, I don't put the water into the mouth. I put the water into the nose. So when I do this, people immediately breathe. When they breathe, they relax. When they relax, everything starts to come out easier. Another of the tools that I use for that is a rapé. But sometimes, after people take the first dose of the medicine, they don't want to go again because they are terrified of experiencing the same or something worse. But some people really need to push themselves to break through completely so they can feel the relief after. Otherwise, they will keep and remain feeling unpleasant feelings. So based in my experience, I need to push people until they accomplish the goal that they supposedly set before the session. So sometimes I need to yell, I need to be physical, I need to be vocal to people to say, hey man, I don't care, stand up and do it again. Because it's for their own sake and also for my own peace of mind. Because then I know that people will feeling bad and I will be the responsible of those kind of tough processes. Integration in this medicine, it's something that it's also new. No one, we're talking about spontaneous reactivations of this medicine days or weeks after, and this is normal with this medicine. So, if the person don't want to stand and do the medicine again, and they don't want to react to the petition or sometimes the order to no, I don't care, do it, it's for your own good. So, I've been physical, I've been kicking people in the butt, I've been slapping people in the face. Why? Because they sign a release form before the ceremony and they trust me as a therapist. If they want to have the experience with 5-MeO-DMT or toad medicine, they can go and do it with anyone else. But if someone comes and approach me in front of the pipe, I need to be sometimes strict with the people in order to help them. Not because I'm in bad mood and I'm just discharging my energy with anyone, okay? Sometimes these guys don't want even to react to the physical stimulation. So then I needed to use something else. And then I start to use an electric muscle stimulator that looks like a stun gun. So when I buzz this thing, everyone is paying attention. And I don't need to buzz anyone. But this thing is completely harmless. This thing has a really loud voltages. And if I put it in your cheek or anywhere in your muscle, you will only have a muscle local contraction. That is enough for the people to overcome the fear to do the medicine because they are terrified for being electrocuted. So I'm using some kind of mind fuck to help people to overcome their fears. And then I exposing myself. Why? Because one, I allow people to record their ceremonies. I do my ceremonies in group. I don't do this private. There is nothing hidden, and it's normal that after people see that I'm kicking someone or that I'm using this kind of thing, they think that I'm torturing people and that I'm a maniac. But I don't have any sue after being in 37 countries and giving this to 8,000 people. But I am the worst person in the internet, in the forums. I've killed 7 or 8 people. I've done horrible things. I've been accused in the internet, because all this is just in the internet, to rape girls, to steal money from people, and more than once I open in forums to say, hey, if there is anyone that I'm harmed directly, please, this is the moment. So far, none. There is one guy who is upset because their friends start to tease him, hey, this guy was being disrespectful with you, but the guy didn't even remember when I picked him in the butt, and the truth is that we hugged before he left. So I haven't harmed anyone, but people have suffered injuries during the toad medicine. Why? Because people roll, people bite themselves, people do horrible things, scratch themselves, and I've been beaten, punched in the face, but I will keep doing this work because I know that it's effective. And when a little kid is gonna put the finger inside of the electric current and you know that he's gonna get hurt, you're not gonna wait for him to put the finger there. You're gonna go and say, no, don't do it. That's what I need to do. It's not something that I like, it's not something that I want, but someone needs to do it. And I'm doing it with my heart and with my love, because I love people, I love planet, and I love myself. And no one did anything to help me. I did it by myself, and I'm doing it with love. Most part of my sessions are full of hugs. I've been also accused for kissing people, for hugging people. I mean, this is the wild, wild west. And I am completely open to be questioned, to have discussions, to give interviews, because I've been doing my work openly all these years. So that's all that I want to say.
Thank you. Dennis, you look like you're on the edge of your seat there. Is there something, you look like you're on the edge of your seat there.
Well, that's because I'm listening hard.
And I know that it's necessary to have a prior consent of people before doing anything. I know that people needs to be informed about anything that should or might happen inside of or during the sessions. And you can go to my website and you can see that there is the disclaimer for people that I can use water, I can use rapé, or I can use my electric toy. Because after all the gossip and all the trolling, that thing still be in my suitcase. Why? Because I am not gonna accept publicly that I did something wrong just because someone is thinking that I'm a maniac, when the truth is that I'm doing anything and everything in order to help people. Maybe not in the most beautiful, pretty way, but where are we?
Right. I think you're, you have a lot of experience giving this medicine, and you've learned a great many things, and I think, you're not doing this to hurt people. You've learned through time that sometimes this is necessary, but you can see the issue with the public perception, and how easy it will be to distort this. And that's tricky, and I'm not criticizing you. You have to be aware of this, and I'm not sure what you do. I'm not sure, except that you respond to these criticisms with truth, and you just say, sometimes I have to do this. You can read it on my website why, and it's just with someone who's doing the kind of things you are, there are a lot of people who are looking for an excuse to make it look bad, and distort
it. It looks bad.
Yeah.
But the
don't
thing
know
is
that
that
there's any solution other than just be true and be honest and open about what you're doing and what. This is not a common thing. You don't normally have to do that, right? Sometimes people got to get slapped upside the head, I don't say it's a bad thing, but I do think you've got a public perception problem, and I'm not sure how to overcome that other than just by educating people.
Absolutely.
And that's the way it is with a lot of these substances. A lot of people say, like with ayahuasca, why would I want to go to South America and take a drug that's going to make me puke and get sick all over myself? They don't really understand that in the context of the tradition, purging is part of the process. It's understood to be a cleansing thing. That's how it's interpreted, and I believe it is. And I think, if you don't want to throw up, don't take ayahuasca. It's not the drug for you. And probably toad medicine, same thing, but it's a tricky area.
Yeah, I want to add something. First time that I went to Venezuela and I shared the medicine with the Piara tribe, after the Grandpa Bolivar saw that his granddaughter was rolling on the ground, he threw a huge rope for me to tie her up, because they know that in the Yopo ceremony, this might happen for 5 hours. So in order for people to don't get harmed, they need to tie them up from the legs and the arms and the mouth into a tree. Can you imagine if I start to do these kind of things? I will be put in a mental institution. But the truth is that is the only way to avoid people to hurt themselves. Or then harm reduction will be, don't give these substances to people, or just give them a little bit so you won't have these kind of reactions. There is not overdose in psychedelics. We don't know if there is any kind of toxic ingredient in the toad, because no one has done a full spectrum of all the components of the toad. I would love to use this opportunity to offer to Dennis that I can provide a sample of the toad medicine so you can do 3 exams. One,
full spectrum of the dry secretion. 2, full spectrum of the gas. And 3, full spectrum of the residual after the combustion. Dry secretion to know what's there. Because we did one and they found PCP and methamphetamine inside of the toad medicine, which it's kind of confusion because they match these components with something that they had identified before. But we might be here seeing something new, some new components that were never identified in these toads, and we don't know the future about this medicine. But we really need to start to do the scientific work. I already did a lot of field work, but I've been condemned by the scientific community, not because of my actions, because of the words of some people that are against me. And the truth is that so far there is no evidence that I did anything wrong with anyone. Otherwise, instead of me being here sitting with you talking about this, I will be prosecuted for something, and that has never happened, even if some people has died in my experiences. Okay?
Can we move on to question 2, and
Please.
then I'll open up to the audience. So the theme of the Elevate Symposium was to sort of elevate awareness of humanity for a sustainable future. Now, what comments could you make to point out what humanity as a species are doing wrong? Perhaps Steve would like to answer that one.
Wrong's an interesting term because it really depends whose perspective you take, whose worldview you take when you look at these things. And some things that seem wrong to one cultural group will not seem wrong to another cultural group. But certainly, it's fair to say that the modern paradigm has had a great impact on the natural world, in ways that aren't sustainable, and we've been using resources that in ways that aren't sustainable either. And the key to changing that really is to change our worldview, and this is what evolution is doing. And if you look back through the different eras that we've grown through, like hunter-gatherer to tribal to warlike to agricultural and then the modern, you'll find that each new era solves the problems that were created by the previous one, right? But over time, just living life in one particular way makes problems. And so new problems arise, and then those problems can only be solved by moving to the next level. And so the tension of those problems is actually the fuel that drives evolution. Okay? It's important to remember that. If it was not for that tension, there would be no evolution because we wouldn't need to change, right? But every time we change, we become more capable and more conscious and more aware and more godlike, yeah? So if you look at it that way, then it's not necessarily a bad thing, yeah?
A question for Filip. You made a wonderful documentary with Octavio and Stanislav Grof about the Bufo alvarius toad, and it's got really great psychedelic animations as well. Can you tell us about your involvement with Stanislav Grof and his perception of the sacred toad medicine?
Yeah, basically the movie started for me like 2.5 years ago when I first met Octavio. I have tried many psychedelics since 23 years. Yeah, I've tried all of them, but I was surprised when I smoked the toad for the first time. It was the biggest, greatest experience of my life, and I was surprised that there is no movie about this. So I decided I will make a movie about it. So we went to Colombia, we shot the movie there, and we had some 15 psychonauts there, and they all have been saying the same story, that they have feel the infinite love, that they have feel the infinite universe, that everything is connected, everything is beautiful, So when I started to edit the movie, nobody would believe that. Yeah, they would just think that this is just some bunch of junkies tripping somewhere, and it doesn't make sense. Yeah, so I decided I have to add to the movie someone who has a big credibility, who is a scientist, and because I'm from Czech Republic and Stan Grof is also from Czech Republic, and he goes often there. We organize conferences there and so on. So I called him and I said I would like to visit him and make an interview about the toad. And I didn't say that so when I said, Stan, could you tell me please something about your Buffalo Various experience? And he said, his eyes just go open, and he said that this was the biggest experience of his life. Actually, he took a really high dose. Yeah, he took 30 milligrams of 5-methoxy-DMT, and the normal dose is like 5 milligrams. So
And he's what, 87 now? Or?
yeah, he's 87. Yeah, so and basically he said the same thing as our psychonauts, that he became the pure light, pure consciousness, and he understood that this is where everything begins, where everything ends. And then even the light disappeared, and there was just pure emptiness, infinite pure emptiness, full of intelligence, creativity, wisdom, and bliss. And that this is the ultimate psychedelic experience. This is the end. This is where all psychedelics end, but not all of them can take you there. But with 5-methoxy-DMT or Buffalo Various, you go there, you can get there very often. Very high percentage of people get there and have this experience. And Stan Grof told me that although he has tried so many psychedelics and everything, he never ever took the same dose again. Even for him, for such a man, it was too big, too much, you know. But it has changed him profoundly, and he said that this was the most profound experience of his psychedelic journey. And he was happy that somebody was asking about this, because not many people know about this medicine. And basically this is why I decided I have to make this movie, because this medicine is really good for the Western world, I believe, because it's really fast. You don't have to do any diet, anything. You just go, and if you are healthy, if you don't have any contraindications, then in 15 minutes it can literally change your life. Yeah, it can cure many problems, be it psychological or physiological, and it can show you the truth about the universe in a few minutes, and then you come back and your life is different because you no more believe in anything, you know, and this is priceless, I think.
I think he also mentioned that from the Toad experience he felt an overwhelming sense of love
Yes.
as well, which you can call God even.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you realize that everything is love and everything is God. There is nothing else, and this is us. And when you realize that you no more would like to harm anybody, because if you harm anybody, hurt anybody, you are hurting yourself. So you no more want to kill planet, kill animals, kill anything, you know. So it is basically something that can save us, because it's really fast, it's really, and it's the deepest state you can get. Yeah. Because in order to achieve this state naturally, you would have to sit for 40 years in a cave and meditate all day, and maybe you would get there. But with this medicine, you get there in a few seconds, and this is fantastic. I'm sorry, we were supposed to play the movie and then make the discussion, but because we don't have time, so if you want to watch the movie, you can go to www.buffalvarious.com, and the movie is there online, and you can watch it if you wish.
Any other questions?
May I?
Sure.
This related with what
Can you raise your voice?
I'm gonna try that one. It's related with what Octavio was sharing before, and also a little bit with the bad reputation, right, that certain things can have because of my beliefs. We all know about that. But my question was, have you, the four of you, have you thought about the integration and how to unite that with the process more actively? Maybe those kind of belief system can be actually system to be transformed in a way, so when they come back home, they are more aware of all those things.
Integration, it's a normal and natural process after you take any therapy. You need
Exactly.
to know how you will use this
for your benefit in your life. And what happened with the told medicine is that integration lasts for at least a few weeks. So the idea is to walk this path with a person, but based on the experience, only a really small percentage of people will really need a follow after a few weeks. People mainly need to talk with someone. People mainly need to know that it's okay what they are feeling, that it's normal that they are experiencing fear, that it's normal that they might feel sometimes anxious, that it's normal that some people can still having reactivations of the medicine. This is something that happened with people after taking the told medicine with me or with many other practitioners. It's something related with the medicine. So it's important to create the culture in the world about how to support people having these processes. Mainly we are doing it now with a few therapists and groups on social media made by the people who share that day, that ceremony between them, 15, 20 people, so they know each other and they can walk that path. The other thing is forums of internet about integration. But what I learned that it's more effective is to have a therapist available for the people. So when they need someone, they can just reach, and there are already people who are working for 35 years with a spiritual crisis, but now they are starting to do the work based on the reactions of the people after the told medicine. And the worst thing that might happen to someone not physical, it's the psychological or emotional distress. And for this, I suggest to people, one, not take drugs, prescription drugs for any psychotic episode. I suggest people not numb their senses with any other pills to go to sleep, to this or that. I suggest people to face the process and more often to take more medicine. Because I know that when people hasn't reached this place that I talked before, they will feel uncomfortable. When people push themselves, break through, they will feel okay. So that's one of the possible ways to help people with this integration process. But at the end of the day, everyone will integrate the experience by themselves, in solitude, in loneliness, for the rest of their lives. And one experience with any medicine is not enough for telling you that you know about the medicine, for telling you that you already did all the process that you need to do with this. This kind of tools should and need and must be used as part of our daily life, part of our culture. So we can prevent some diseases that are product of the habits that we are having, and then to have the awareness that we can heal ourselves, that the body has this property, that if you stop being exposed to the things that are harming you, with the time, you will heal yourself. We need time, we need culture, and we need to embrace ourselves, not only the people who is having a beautiful ecstatic process, but also the people who is having a hard process. Unfortunately, I cannot be all the time with all the people there, but there is many people, therapists that are working in this field with more experience than me in this kind of spiritual crisis, and I'm really happy to see that this is happening. This is happening.
A quick one. If say you could only choose one plant medicine, entheogen or drug, whatever you want to call it, that you could use for the remainder of your life, what would it be and why? Starting from Philip.
Wow. Well, basically,
Yeah, you know.
To be honest, I would like to get into a state where I don't have to use any psychedelic at all. Yeah. I think that this is the natural way. We are so disconnected from the nature and from our true nature that we simply have to use psychedelic to get back where we have already been. So this is my point of view. I believe that we are able to do it without any psychedelics, but psychedelics can teach us how to do it. Yeah. So, and for me, the best tool is thought medicine, really, because it is the fastest and the most effective, the strongest, and it's with our psychedelics you are still in the realms of illusions, you know. You go to other dimensions, you go everywhere, you meet some spirits, whatever, but these are still illusions. The only reality is the light, the God, which is really empty, you know. So for me, the way is to learn how to reach that state naturally, and for that the 5-methoxy-DMT or the buffalo is the strongest medicine.
Thank you. Dennis?
Well, that's a hard answer to Tom.
It is. Yeah.
I
Hard
think,
question.
I think in my life I have basically two plant teachers that I have had relationships with for a very long time. One is mushrooms, and the other is ayahuasca. And I respect them both. I don't think one is superior to the other in my own personal pantheon. They both have a place. I tend to use ayahuasca more often than mushrooms, but that's not necessarily because I prefer it. I think that ayahuasca supplies more healing to the body, perhaps, than mushrooms do. Mushrooms are very cerebral for me, and not so much about the body. And I feel that ayahuasca heals me on a deeper level, you know, and on the physical and mental and more emotional. So in later years, I've tended to rely more on ayahuasca. But I still take mushrooms occasionally, maybe for every 10 ayahuasca trips, maybe I take mushrooms once, you know. But I value both of them. I think they both have things to teach, and you know, I'm grateful every day for both of these medicines, as well as all the others. I don't take other things enough to really cultivate what you call a relationship with them. Sometimes I take them, well, when it's appropriate, or when it just feels like the right thing to do. I'm not someone who feels that they have to take every possible drug that is out there to take. I feel like it's more, you know, whether it's a natural medicine or all the synthetics. If you tried to put a data point down for every synthetic, you could take drugs every day and you'd never get through it for the rest of your life. You know, I prefer to rely on the ones that I know that still have a lot to teach me. And I haven't reached I've been taking ayahuasca for 40 years, more or less. Not as frequently as I tend to now, but what continues to astonish me about it is the more I take it, the more I learn. You know, it never seems to stop. A lot of people ask me, when are you going to stop? Haven't you learned enough? And the answer is invariably no. As long as I'm learning things, why would I stop? You know, so the depths of what you have, these medicines have to teach you it's a bottomless pit as far as I can tell. And it's like they're infinitely more wise than we are. And a lot of people say, or it has been said, I shouldn't say a lot of people say, but it has been said, you know, there's the whole thing about, well, once you get the message, hang up the phone. You know, that's I think Alan Watts said that. Once you get the message, hang up the phone. I couldn't disagree with that more, because these are, you know, this is not a record, it's not your voicemail that you tap into. Here's the message, hang up the phone. entities, these are teachers. And just like you would form a relationship with a human teacher who still has a lot to teach you, why would you turn away from that? You know, it's insulting to the plant teacher to say, well, you know, you don't have anything to tell me anymore. About the time I mean, and I do come to that point where, you know, oh, just another boring ayahuasca trip, you know, and it's, you know, I do sometimes come to that point and say, well, maybe I should stop taking ayahuasca. I'm not learning anything. And just about the time I say that, it's, you know, the response is, hold on, cowboy, I'll show you a few things that you haven't thought about. So that's my relationship with these things. And I cherish them. There's not a day that goes by that I'm not grateful for these medicines.
Me too, Dennis, me too. I think it's a crazy question. It's like saying if you could only eat one food for the rest of your life, which food would it be, right? You're going to get sick of it sooner or later. But I guess if I had to choose, it would be ayahuasca, simply because it's such a versatile medicine. Like, it's not just a psychedelic tripping medicine, you know, it's a natural antibiotic, it's a natural anti-inflammatory, it has all sorts of amazing medical properties in the alkaloids, and it produces neurogenesis, you know, it generates new brain cells, all sorts of things. So for diversity, I think,
all of those things.
All of those things, yeah.
No, it's impossible to answer that question, because all the plants and all the medicines show me something unique and special. It's like without any of them, my hand will be incomplete. And I will only ask something. Please don't tell me that I won't have any of them for the rest of my life, because then I will be in problem. And if will be one, any of them, just any of them. All of them are super special. All of them are unique, and I couldn't put one over the other one, because all of them has more. I need, just like Dennis says, there is a lot more to learn to the plants, and people were used to work with one tradition or one plant or one master or one teacher, but we are in the time where all these little paths will converge in a huge highway, and I do believe that there is possible combinations of natural plants that has never been explored. And in my experience, the wildest journeys were combining natural medicines, not increasing the dose of any of them. And I am a fan of microdosing. I don't like to take little amounts of these things, because when I go to shower, I go shower fully. The places that are more dirty is the places that I need to clean more. And I think that it's the same with our spirit and our consciousness. We really need to navigate and explore it, and it's infinite. We will never finish to know it. So
we had a question over there. Nick?
Yeah, Stanislav Grof often says that in order to address the ecological and political crises, global crises, we need to change our consciousness. And I wonder if you could talk briefly about the drug war. I have two related questions about that. One is, can you think of a sort of alternate history? What would it have been like if we hadn't had a drug war? Or how far have we been set back? And two is, if you were playing king, what would you do about drug policy?
Someone want to take this?
Legalization of all the substances, regularization, and stop the stigma, stop the prohibition, stop the control of people's consciousness. I will allow people to be free, and then I will see the results, and then I can talk about evidence and not about my suppositions or my ideas.
Honestly, I didn't hear it very well.
Yeah. Look, it's hard to say that the hypothesis of what would it be like without the drug war. I mean,
What would it be like without the drug war?
yeah.
Think of all the unemployed people that would produce.
That's exactly. Yeah. The police would be much poorer.
Yeah.
But I guess, if we had continued to have free access to things like LSD in the 60s and MDMA and all the things that followed later, it most likely would have accelerated our evolution as a species, I think, yes. But you've got to remember that the drug law hasn't stopped people from taking these things, so it still happens anyway, right?
Right. Oh, I think it's important to bear in mind, I think this is one of the key things. We have to understand that the war on drugs is not about the substances. Essentially, the war on drugs is a war on consciousness. It's saying that certain states of mind are not allowed. And as we know, in authoritarian societies, certain states of mind are not allowed. But, you can't prevent people from thinking, but you can prevent them from thinking out loud in a certain way. So I don't see the war on drugs, the war on drugs is not about protecting people from toxic substances. There are toxic substances out there. There are dangerous drugs. But the solution is not to put people in jail. The solution is to educate people about the choices that they make. And just, I don't think you should prohibit any of these drugs. I think that people should be free to learn about these things and guided gently to make intelligent choices. Given that there are many more drugs that are far more interesting than the most dangerous drugs, those are prohibited too. But this is really about a war on consciousness. It's about a war on human thought. And it has very little to do with drugs. It's just another one of these bludgeons, basically, that the authoritarian structures can use to beat people into submission, much like religion. Religion used to have spiritual aspect to it. It's basically, behavioral modification. Any spiritual aspect to religion, the major established religions, has long since been hollowed out. And they're which is why people are so desperate to find meaningful experience outside religion, outside the established religions, and why they go to South America to take ayahuasca or take psychedelics, because people are looking for genuine spiritual sustenance, and religion is not supplying that. And and religions too are essentially now tools for regulating behavior and prohibiting or discouraging at least certain types of behavior. So I think the war on drugs is simply another tool that the state uses to, it's not like it's nothing new. This has really started with the Inquisition and even before that. Jonathan Ott talks about the pharmacratic Inquisition. So, it's complex, but that's what I feel about it.
I believe that if there would be no war on drugs, that we would be living in a completely different society, because we would be more healthier, we would be more spiritual, we would be more ecological, we would be less racist, more tolerant. And I've spoken with Stan Grove 4 weeks ago, and we have spoken about the psychedelic research renaissance, and he was really upset because he said all the research that is being done right now has already been done 50 years ago. It's already all proven. We know that. Yeah, and he said now we should use the research for creativity. We should gather 100 scientists, give them psychedelics, and let's solve the problems that we have, because we'll be able to do it on psychedelics, because they support creativity. They can inspire you to solve our problems. So I think this is the way.
And if I was emperor for a day, I think the first logical thing to do is to make the laws based on science because they're not based on science at the moment.
Right, right. They're based on politics and usually on ignorance.
Yeah.
You know.
Interests, financial interests, and control.
Yeah.
Exactly.
You had a question, Thomas?
No, I didn't have a question, but I was just thinking that they want to keep us in the prison, and they are the gatekeepers of this prison. And I was wondering myself if, because like someone said, we still are functioning. I mean, we all have our networks, and we all are managing to access these things, and perhaps we have to accept it might be like that still for some time, in spite of all the efforts trying to change all the people, because the forces against drugs on a physical, global, political level, it's very powerful.
Well, there's no interest for the people to break out of the matrix.
Sorry?
There's no interest for the people to break out of the matrix.
Yeah, exactly. So they are threatened. The governments are threatened that we're going to go expand our consciousness and not buy their story anymore. Like you said, Dennis.
Okay, so my question is, how necessary is having a shaman when experiencing with ayahuasca, but not for the first time? Let's say you do have a bit of experience, because it's kind of complicated going to South America or finding good shamans. And I was curious, it's also a new trend about the pharmahuasca, is this pill containing everything, which one could experience at home. So I could really use an opinion on that. The necessity of the shaman in basically having experiencing with ayahuasca.
I'd say that it's essential, unless you are an extremely experienced drinker or consumer, whichever way you take it. I would not recommend anybody take ayahuasca without supervision for the first time. No.
Not the first time. Let's say one has a bit of experience, so it understands how it works.
Yeah, the thing is though, ayahuasca experiences can vary very much. They can vary greatly, and you can sometimes have 50 experiences in a row that were okay, and then the next one is going to actually completely disrupt you, right? And you're actually going to need help. You'll feel like you'll need help from somebody, and there'll be no one there. Okay? And that's just a matter of time. And there are three very, very common experiences that people have with any psychedelic, including ayahuasca, if they drink long enough. Okay? The first one is they get into a place where they think they will never come back from the journey. Okay? And that can be traumatic. The second one is they think they're actually dying, really dying. Okay? That can be traumatic. And the third one is they think they're going insane. And they have become insane. Okay? That can be traumatic. Yeah. Very common. You ask anybody who's an experienced drinker, they've had at least one, maybe two, or all three of those. Yeah.
Because we see persons who are tightened up with some ropes in order not to hurt themselves, like you said. So that seems like a solution from the shaman to deal with this kind of traumatic experience that they have. But
it's actually a different thing. The tying people up is to stop physical injury. Okay? Physical injury is very different than psychological trauma. You can't tie up somebody to stop psychological trauma. There's nothing you can do. Unless you have someone there who knows how to hold space, how to keep you grounded, how to care for you if you need care. Yeah.
But these accidents or possibilities, like bad possibilities, can happen with the shaman as well.
Yes, they can.
I mean, it's a risk that we are taking, right, at
Yes,
the time.
yes, true.
With a shaman, without a shaman, we are assuming this risk anytime, right, in a way.
Sure. But so you could be hit by a car and you could be killed, okay? Would you rather be hit by a car with a doctor there or hit by a car with no doctor? Yeah? Your choice.
We drive the car with the doctor.
Any more questions? Does anyone from the panel want to add something about the events of today and yesterday?
I'd just like to say thank you so much. It's been an amazing journey, and thank you to everybody who came
Indeed.
sharing it. Yeah.
I'll leave it at that. Yes,
Yeah.
thank you, and thank you, Josh.
Thank you.
So much.
Thank you.